Hello, everyone. A warm welcome to the Matchbook Horse Racing Podcast, joined by Steve Jones and by Donn McClean this week, where we are looking at some really good action, Group 1 action for juveniles on Saturday from Newmarket. We're also going to touch on a couple of other races from Newmarket on Friday or tomorrow if you're watching us live. Thank you if you are. Also, a couple of interesting handicaps from York. We wanted to make it interesting and a bit more difficult for our esteemed guests who are alongside. Before saying hello to them and getting stuck into the racing previews, let me remind you of the offer, which is the Bet 10 Get 15 offer. You need to bet £10 and you will get 15 back to you. In order to take advantage of that, use the bonus code INSIGHTS15, and that 15 is the numbers 15, INSIGHTS15 for the Bet 10 Get 15 offer. If you are watching us live and you like the content on YouTube, then please give us a thumbs up. That makes all the difference. And whichever your podcast platform you're listening to us on, please do leave us a review, and you can subscribe wherever you're watching or listening, which makes it easier each and every time we do a pod for you to take advantage of it, or hopefully take advantage of it, because hopefully we're going to put up some winners or send some winners your way. Steve Jones, how's things? You all good?
Yeah, very good. Thank you.
Top man. Donn, how are you? There's a strong Irish contingent coming over this weekend, Donn.
Yeah. No, good, Tom. Yeah, it's good. It's been a bit of the last few weekends have been good and pretty intense. So yeah, no, it rocks on, doesn't it?
Absolutely, certainly does. Right, let's move on to the first of our previews then. We're going to start at York. So we'll get the 2 York races done, and then we'll move on to the Newmarket action. Then there'll be 6 races in full from Newmarket. So the 2:05 at York, first of all. This is on Friday afternoon. It is over 6 furlongs, just the 11. So they won't be making use of the full width of the track. And Cairn Island is 5.0, as is Mr. Wagyu. Shortened up a little bit, actually, since I looked at the race first time. Chairman of the board is 7.0. Treacherous is 7.5. 10.0 for Nomadic Empire, and then bigger, quite a bit bigger beyond that as well. Right, kick us off if you can, Jonesy. Where are you looking for this York opener and why?
Yeah, you mentioned that Mr. Wagyu's been well backed. I'm not surprised. I expect him to go off clear favourite. I think he's just got so much going for him. He's got the course form, which I always think is a real bonus at York, a really important factor. Some horses just don't like York, but you go through Mr. Wagyu's form. He was second back there in July to Capote's Dream, who has been very progressive, and then in June he'd won over this course and distance. So he's got that in the book, which is a help. And he also comes into the race in really good form, because last week he finished 3rd in the Air Gold Cup. That was behind Bielsa, where he was Bielsa obviously came right up the stand side, and Mr. Wagyu, who was ridden more prominently than some, which isn't an easy thing to do in the Air Gold Cup. He usually favours horses ridden a little bit more patiently, but he's a horse that likes to be up there. He's got a lot of speed, this horse, so you can see why he is suited to York. In his form before that was good. He finished not too far behind Hurricane Ivor in the Portland. That form worked out well, and he won it Goodwood on soft ground in the race that is the consolation to the Stewards Cup, the sprint, Stewards Sprint, I think they call it. So he's got really good sprint form. He likes the track. The only worry with him, or potential worry, is the fact that the Air Gold Cup was only 6 days ago. And he needs to back that up. But you look at his last wins, they came after 7 days, 12 days, 5 days. So he's a horse in 4 days before that. So he's a horse that backs up well. He's just very, very solid. I think he'll win.
Confident stuff from Jonesy. I'll just jump in there, Donn, if you don't mind, purely because the horse I'm putting up, the form ties in quite nicely with Mr. Wagyu, and I can see the Mr. Wagyu angle. But I thought Music Society at 15.0, and there was 21.0 initially knocking around. Music Society, I think, is an absolutely whopping price. Paul Mulrennan has won on him before. He's ridden him 3 times. He's also unseated on him before. So, take whichever stat you want. But the things that are key to the horse: a sound surface, which he's going to get. He's got course form and a short head second to Venturous. I think he's a really tricky ride. I think he's a tricky horse. I think he wants the pace to hold up for as long as possible, and he wants to come through horses. So in some ways, maybe a bigger field suits him, but his form is, I mean, he was a nose second to the subsequent Stewards Cup winner at Hamilton, and that day he split Comanche Falls and Mr. Wagyu, so he finished ahead of Mr. Wagyu that day. He then got nailed on the line by Venturous. Then at Goodwood, he was the wrong side. Well, he was on the wide outside, if you like. He was in the worst part of the track. He still finished fourth. At Ripon, he was the wrong side, and at Ayr, he ended up with the race developed far side, and it developed completely away from him. I think off a mark of 88, he's going to be best bet material for me at that sort of price. Honestly, there's no other horse on the day I'd rather back than Music Society. Definitely win and place, though, just given that he is tricky at the finish of the race. Donn.
Yeah, no, I see the Music Society case. I think he's just a pound worse off with Mr. Wagyu for that Goodwood run. And as you say, Tom, he was out towards the far side. He was a notebook horse for me after that. I was thinking, either maybe the Ayr Silver Cup or the Ayr Bronze Cup, but to say it didn't really happen for him then. But yeah, he's a big enough price. But I just think Cairn Island is the progressive horse in it. And I agree fully with what Steve said about course form. York is a track at which York and Ascot, they're the two British tracks where I look on the straight track at Ascot, where you look for course form as just more important than it is at most of the tracks. And I think as well, course form at York, it's more relevant when the ground is on the easy side. I just think easy ground at York is harder to handle, and some horses just don't handle it at all. Whereas I think the faster the ground gets at York, the less important course form gets. Maybe I'm completely wrong on that. That's my notional opinion on it, without any hard and fast evidence to back it up. But just anecdotally, that seems to be the way it plays. But Cairn Island, he's got that course form. He won last year as a juvenile. He beat Perotto, and Perotto obviously went and won the Britannia this year. He's a 110, I think, rated horse. And Cairn Island, I like the way he did it the last day. The race isn't working out great, but he battled on really well at Newmarket to beat Operatic. The Newmarket race in which he ran in the early part of this season, that's working out really, really well. He finished fourth behind Creative Force significantly, and Jumbi, and they're all obviously Creative Force won his next 3 or 4 and won the Jersey Stakes as well. And the three of them, they're all rated over 100, and he raced off a mark of 93. He's only £2 higher than he was for that. He got a £3 hike for winning the last day at Newmarket, and I think that was more than fair. I thought he might have got a wee bit more. His Chester run before that was over 7 furlongs, and at Chester, it just, Chester probably isn't ideal, and 7 furlongs probably wasn't ideal. Back down to 6 furlongs today, I think that's good. And I don't mind his draw in stall 1. Ideally, in a straight race, you don't tend to want to be on the wing, but I'd prefer be low rather than high at York. I think a low draw is better. Plus, he's got Mr. Wagyu just beside him in stall, a couple of boxes away in stall 4, so he should get a good toe into the race. And look, he's joint favourite with Mr. Wagyu, but I think he's probably the most likely winner of the race.
I completely take the point about when it's easy. I think it can get quite loose topped at York, and I think some horses, as you say, just really don't handle it when there's cut under there. So I take that point. You're with the horse. Well, we've got 2 votes for the 5.0 about the 2 horses right at the top of the market, and I'm taking Music Society in the York Opener tomorrow, which is Friday. The second race at York is the 240. It's 7 furlong handicaps, Class 3 contest, and we've got just the 12 going to post here. At the top of the market, La Trinidad is 6.0, Danzan is 9.0, Colour Image 10.0, Lion Tower 10.0, 11.04, Firmament and Poet's Magic, and then we're into the bigger prices. Donn, you are swerving this, as I nearly did, to be completely honest, but I think I've just about found when I found it a harder race to sum up as far as the handicap goes than the previous one, or not such a strong opinion. Jonesy, kick us off again.
Yeah, there's a lot of progressive, unexposed-ish 4-year-olds in the race, so I'm going to be contrary and go for the oldest horse in the race, who is Firmament, and he's another horse that has got course form and plenty of it. He does tend to run quite a lot at York, but if you narrow it down to just the flat 7 furlongs rather than the 7 furlongs 192 yards, which is another distance regularly run over at York, then it's even better. And Firmament is coming into the race off the back of a win. That was at Newcastle when he caused a little bit of a surprise, but he had slipped in the weight quite markedly. He's got, since the start of this season, he'd gone down a stone, and he's only been nudged up 6 pounds again. So he's still well handicapped on his best form, certainly last season's form, where he won over this course and distance last summer off 93. Now he's 86. So there's a potential to certainly be competitive, if not take this. And he's going to have a good pace to aim at, which is another thing that suits Firmament. He's got Jason Watson for David O'Mara. And I think he's just one of those horses that pops up when you least expect him, sort of thing, like he did last time. But now he's into more competitive race. But I think he can handle it because he's shown he can in the past. And with the decent pace, it's going to be thrown up by the likes of Chalet and a few other. Poets Magic's another one that likes to go forward. I think he'll be able to pounce in the closing stage. It is a tricky race, so I keep stakes a little bit small. But yeah, Firmament for me.
Firmament is a 11.0. I'm going to go for one of the progressive horses, which is Grant Chure's Lion Tower at 10.0, who looked really impressive when winning at Musselburgh over a little bit shorter. Then they went up in trip, up to the mile. And I mean, he saw it out, but I just don't think he was quite so effective. I think a forward ride over this trip is what he wants. He came back to Musselburgh and won subsequently. And I think the rise is fair enough. He fits that progressive bill. His form is pretty strong, and I think he can make the step up at a fair price. But it would definitely be a win and place price of that Lion Tower, just because I suppose one of the slight niggles I have is you mentioned the pace. I mean, I'd rather if he was not necessarily going to get an uncontested lead. I think he'll probably just sit off them. But I don't want too much pace on, just because I think, I know he's won over a mile before, but he has looked most effective at a track like Musselburgh over 7. So, here I think I just hope they don't go too hard. But I think he's a fair price, Lion Tower, and is very progressive, should get his ground as well. So I'm going to have a win and place go at him. And now we're going to move on to the Newmarket stuff. So this is the Rockfel. This is the first of 2 Friday races we're previewing at Newmarket, and this is at 3:00, the Rockfel. We've got Majestic Glory, who interestingly is in different colours now, the colours of Mrs. Doreen Tabor, and that is why Ryan Moore is riding. Majestic Glory is at the top of the market at 4.3. Girl on Film is 5.5. Jumbly is also 5.5. Oscula is 6.5. 9.0 for Hello You. 12.0 for Romantic Time and Cachet, and then a few more at bigger prices. Right, Donn, straight back at you. I wondered if you were going to go all out Majestic Glory. I think it's interesting that they've been picked up, or she's been picked up by different connections, but you are going for a bigger price, 12.0, about William Stone's Romantic Time.
Yeah, I think she's bigger than she should be, Tom. But look, you can see the case for Majestic Glory. She's her win the last day in the Sweet Solara. It was a really impressive win. It was up to 7 furlongs, obviously Saturday or Friday's trip. And she battled on. She just stayed on really well to beat Wild Beauty, who then went on Sunday and won a Grade 1 race at Woodbine over a mile. So the form is solid, and Majestic Glory is just a really progressive, likeable filly. And the fact that obviously Doreen Tabor now owns her, that's no negative. And the fact that Ryan Moore takes the ride, also not a negative. But look, I think it's a really interesting race. Obviously, the Rockfel always is. Girl on Film. She's only run once. She was impressive in winning her only start. Jumbly as well, another progressive. It's full of progressive fillies. Hello You was the one that I kind of thought. I think she's a little bit overpriced as well. You kind of think there's a race like this in her. She's been keeping really good company. She in the Albany Stakes at Royal Ascot, she was up at the fast pace. Then in the Duchess of Cambridge, she was a bit free early on. Then last time in the Prestige, up to 7 furlongs, she was just a little bit back in the race, and then didn't have an awful lot of room when Mise en Scène came past her. So I just thought that she's a filly who can, she's getting a wee bit exposed now, but I still think there's a race in her. But no, I just think Romantic Time, the market doesn't seem to believe her run in the Dick Pool, which, fair enough, it was a little bit out of nowhere, but it was a first try over 6 furlongs. All her runs before that were over 5. She stepped up to 6, and look, it may have been that there was a little bit of a pace collapse, and she got a super ride from Holly Doyle, and she did get the split on the far side, but she still had to pick up like she did, and she went on and won it. And on breeding, she's bred to be way better over longer distances than over 5 furlongs. Like her dam was placed over 1.5 miles. She's a half sister to Top Tug, and she's by Time Test, who was obviously a mile to 10 furlong horse. So all her pedigree says she should be better over further. Her best performance by a little way was on her first try over 6 furlongs. She's stepping up to 7 furlongs now. And look, it may be that she'll be outclassed, but I just think there's enough there to allow us to take a chance on her at a decent price. Like in the listed race at Newbury, in which she finished, she was pretty, she only finished 8th in that, but she was only half a length behind Flotus, who I know, she was ridden differently last time, but she's obviously a high-class juvenile filly. And I just think she's just been a wee bit underrated, maybe because of her connections, maybe because she was a big price for the Dick Pool based on her previous runs. And I think the step up to 7 furlongs can bring about further improvement in her.
At a very fair price, 12.0, as I say, romantic time out of 4. I'm far less confident about my selection. Or I can't make a case that she's such good value, but I did think Majestic Glory would be shorter. And sometimes you watch a race back, and I watched the Sweet Solera back, and she was just so far too good for them that I think that she's probably still a fair enough price. Obviously, the Wild Beauty form with her coming out winning a Grade 1 out in Woodbine, that it's good form, isn't it? And I'm happier having her on side as opposed to Girl on Film, who's had just the one go so far and is trying to step up quite dramatically in class. And Jumbly was really impressive at Kempton, but she was sort of as impressive as you could be, if you like, given that this is a big old jumping class. It wasn't the biggest field last time. For all, she tanked through the race and did look really impressive. So that's who I'm with. I just want to bring in Giles's comment, who says, "Afternoon, lads," and then says, "Good case, Donn. Very fair each way shout." Completely, I agree with that. You've half talked me into it, Donn, to be completely honest. And incidentally, Dave Winder was in saying about Firmament at York as a multiple course winner, just really emphasising, I think, the point that that was for Jonesy, but also the point that Donn had been making about course form there. So look, I'm small stakes Majestic Glory. I think I'll probably put her in with the Cheveley Park horse who will come to in a match but multiple, to be completely honest. Jonesy, you are sweet enough on Jumbly, are you?
Yeah, I've been really impressed with her. Going back to Majestic Glory, I'm reading between the lines a bit, but she's been winning in the colours of Gerald Costello, who used to be partner with Rebecca Curtis. So I wasn't massively surprised when that horse changed hands. So I liked Majestic Glory last time, and I still do. I don't know what the form's worth with Wild Beauty winning that Grade 1 in America. I tend to think that those races in America on the turf certainly aren't up to the Group 1 standards of Europe.
What about the ones in Canada?
North America. See,
Yay!
Well, I always think Woodbine. That's where the fags come from. Yeah, Woodbine's where the fags come from, isn't it? Anyway. Going back to Jumbly and this race, I've been really impressed with her. She's got the pedigree as well. That's what I like. She was impressive first time at Leicester when there was, a few winners have come out of that race, but she was really impressive that day. Her Dam Thistlebird was a Group 1 winner, so she got the pedigree there. And last time at Kempton, she beat nothing, but it was another nice prep race for the. It's not easy for me to go into a group race or a listed race straight from off the back of one run, even though it's a win. So to have that experience again, I think is good. I think she's very smart. I don't think the standard that the others have set is anything out of her reach. So for that reason, I'm going to go with Jumbly to keep her unbeaten record.
Lovely Jumbly for Jonesy. Let's move on to the 335, which is the Joel Stakes, and a fascinating contest. I could not have a bet in it. I was a bit of a head wreck going through it. Although Master of the Seas is slightly bigger now than he was at 2.5. Then Battle is 4.3. Lanacash is 7.0. Sabuska is 9.0. Perotto and Pogo are 17.0, Queen Supreme 21, Accidental Agent 26. So I have got myself in knots about this, and I'm going to sit it out unless anything drifts dramatically. Donn McClean, first of all.
Well, look, it all hinges on Master of the Seas, doesn't it? Like, if he's back to the form that he showed in the Guineas, then he'll win, won't he? That run was a hell of a run. And Poetic Flair has obviously enhanced the form since. And if the bob of the head had gone the other way, he'd be a Guineas winner, not a Guineas runner-up. So, and actually, as they went past the line, I thought he was up. So you just wonder on his first run now in 146 days. It's a fair break. Obviously, everything hasn't been straightforward since. So if he's back to that type of form, then that obviously he's the one they all have to beat. He'd probably go and win it, and you can see why he's favoured on a short price. But I think the market would probably be a fair indicator of where he is in terms of fitness. Ben Battle things didn't go right for him at Goodwood last time, but I think Lanarkash could be the value of the race, stepping up to a mile. He was off for a while as well. I thought his run in the Hungerford Stakes was a hell of a run back when he finished second behind Sacred. He had Njord behind him that day, and Njord is, a good horse without being a Group 1 winner, but he's a high class horse who Lanarkash had him nicely behind him that day. He came on the near side, and I just thought last time in the Park Stakes he didn't really have the run of the race. He seemed to get a bit outpaced when they quickened, and then they all moved over towards the near side. Glorious Journey and Dubai both came over and kind of squeezed them up, and Jim Crowley just had to not actually snatch him up dramatically, but he just had to stop riding him. And then when he got him out and got him going again, it was kind of noticeable the last 100 yards that he was keeping on again. So he's interesting, I think, stepping up to a mile. His dam won over a mile and half a furlong, and he's a horse who I just think he could improve again. He's likely race. He's only a 3-year-old. He's had that break. His first run of the season was in August in the Hungerford Stakes. And I think there could be enough in him. He could make the progression that he has to improve to get up to Ben Battle's level, obviously, and probably up to Master of the Seas level as well. But I think all of that was, given that he's likely raced, only had 2 runs this year, the step up to a mile, the fact that he was a bit unlucky last time, and I just think he can be marked up a wee bit on the bare form of that run, and that's maybe not fully taken into account in the market. I think, around about 6.0, that's fair about him.
A point bigger on 7.0. So, I mean, would you, with 8 runners, would you be win and place, or would you be feeling brave, or do you think that the sensible play is win and place?
Yeah, I think win and place actually is not a bad shout, Tom, because he's the more solid. Like he's a solid one of like Master of the Seas. We don't know how he is fitness wise. Ben Battle, he can be a bit hot and cold. Whereas Lanarkash, as long as he stays a mile, and I think he will, then he should run his race. And I think win and place is probably the way to go.
Steve, how confident are you with your selection?
Well, Master of the Seas is my selection, but sets a very strong standard on that Guineas form, like Don says. But he's got to prove he is able to run at that level on his first run since. He's clearly had a problem or two. And if he's over that, then he wins. But I wouldn't be going him mad at that price. I just think he could outclass this field. And he's should have a decent autumn if he uses this as a stepping stone to something else like the QE2.
Or I think there's a talk of him going to America potentially.
Okay.
Canada. So,
okay.
You go to Canada. Does it?
Definitely not.
You go to Canada. And yes, thank you, Dave. You have said Perotto ran yesterday, and you are quite right. When I was previewing this on the Knowledge on Racing TV with Martin Dixon, he was going to run. This was yesterday, so I wondered if he pulled out the last minute. But you're quite right. I would imagine it's unlikely he's going to turn up. So that's worth taking into account with the win and place. Dave, thank you. Let's get Dave on the pod. He's on the button. Right. Best bets for Friday. I'll kick off the best bets because it is my most confident shout of the weekend. Win and Place Music Society, I think, is a belting bet in the opening race at York on Friday. Steve, your best bet?
Yeah, I'm going to have to take you on because I love doing that with Mr. Wagyu.
Thank you. And Don?
Yeah, I'll stick with Romantic Time in the Rockfel. I just think, she's the best value of the 4 I put up,
Yeah, at 12.0, wasn't she, for William Stone? Right, on we go to Saturday then. Oh, it's good stuff on Saturday. So I thought we didn't know what to start with, so I thought we'd just go in order, just because, we could have started with the Cambridgeshire or one of the Group 1s, but we're going in order. So we're starting Calmer Waters, the Group 2 Royal Lodge, and Masakila is currently 2.9. Corobus is at 3.9. Royal Patronage is 4.3. Health is 13.0. And I won't read out the final 3. I haven't looked at who people have put up for this. I'm interested. So, okay, let's start with you, Dom.
Yeah, look, it's a hell of a race. Masakela battled on well the last day at Newbury. And he was only beaten a short head by Native Trail in the Superlative Stakes, who obviously came and put up a massive performance in winning the Goss Vincent O'Brien National Stakes over here. And obviously was promoted to favouritism, I think, whatever won that race, especially given that he won it as impressively as he did. He was going to be favoured for the Guineas afterwards. So that's obviously a big run. Although Dabab, who was third in that race, only finished fourth in the Mill Reef. So, but to get as close as he got to Native Trail, that was a hell of a run. Caribus won well last time from Saga, Saga went and won next time out. And his dam's a half sister of Thunder Snow is obviously a dual Dubai Gold Cup winner, or Dubai World Cup winner. So, and he's only had the one run. Every chance he'll progress from that. But I thought Royal Patronage, I thought that again, he's another horse who sprang a surprise last time out. And in the A-Cup at York, that the market leaders underperformed in that race, so that's not ideal. But the fourth horse, Noble Truth, won the Flying Scotsman at Doncaster last time, so there is solidity to the form. And I thought the way that he did it, the way that he got out in front, and he ran out the winner in merit for me. Like, he was again given a good ride by Jason Hart, but he wasn't stopping. He was strong all the way to the line. And I think that's a good running style. I mean, we know that it's a good running style for Newmarket horses. It is a track that does favour horses who race up close with the pace, unless they go frenetically fast up front. But I think, given a similar ride, Mark Johnston horse he's a horse who, look, they're all fairly likely race, but that was his fourth run. He's progressing nicely. His last run was a career best. And if you take it at face value, then I just think he's a bigger price than he should be.
There's something about that run at York, which the time was good. The form is good, as you say, with Noble Truth coming out and winning. But there's just something that tells me that Noble Truth and the like just didn't handle it for whatever reason. It's one of those weird ones. There's no substance to back that up, and yet I just feel that he had the run of things and took advantage of that. But yeah, I mean, if you look at his form going back,
they almost finished in reverse market order. Like, there were 5 horses in, they almost finished the wrong way around. But yeah, look, and I get that, and that's a worry. But I just thought the way that he did it was good. Plus, he won well at Epsom the time before that. Again, the same thing, getting out in front.
And his Native Trail form's really strong. If you look at that second, so I totally agree. If you look on the face of it, he's a massive price when he won last time. But I don't know why I can't fully trust that form, and yet there's no substance to back that up. Masakela for me is, he probably should be favourite. The Bayside Boy form and his Native Trail form is rock solid. I'm just a bit more confident about that Corobus is a fairer bet at the prices. Just thought he looked really smart when he won that Newmarket Novice, and I'd just rather have him on side. He looked really straightforward. I know it was a different course, but he just looked professional, and it's not always the easiest there. And I'd rather have him over Masakela and Royal Patronage. I'm not sure about any of the others at bigger prices. So it'd be a small bet though for Corobus for me, William Burke and Charlie Appleby. And you've got one at a bigger price, Jonesy.
Yeah, I have. I agree that Masakela has got the best form without a doubt. That second to Native Trail, and beating Bayside Boy, the form of that's worked out particularly well. But again, Bayside Boy had only had the one run going into that race at Newbury, the Denford Stakes. And that's not easy. I thought Bayside Boy was perhaps the better horse down the line when he got more professional, because he was just run out of it in the closing stages. And further back was Seattle King. And now that gives Seattle King the best part of 5 lengths to make up. But again, he was going into that race off the back of one run, a win at Salisbury, where he looked really good. And he beat a horse called Broadspear, who hasn't done a lot for the form, but they were an absolute mile in front of the rest. And I thought that was a smart performance of a smart horse. And Seattle King, for me, next time at Newbury in the Denford Stakes, that was 7 furlongs. And he just didn't have the pace for me. And the winner, Masakela, made all. And he got a little bit messed about in the closing stages. But I thought it was just the fact that he didn't have the pace. You look at it, Seattle King's pedigree. and that there's no surprise. He is a Kingman, but he's related to horses that that are stayers, like Tribal Craft, who was a 1.6 mile horse. So next season, you're going to be seeing Seattle King over 1.5 miles. So stepping up to 1 mile is going to really suit this horse. It's interesting that Rafe Beckett's put a visor on him for the first time. I don't quite know what to make of that, but looking back at his run at Newbury, if it helps him travel a little bit better over the extra distance, there's no way he's going to be beaten 5 lengths by Masakola this time. And he might just cause a bit of a surprise. If there had been more runners, I would have been happy to put him in as a place bet. But there's not much value in betting 2 places out 7 runners. So I would just have a small win bet on him, because I think he's going to show a hell of a lot more than he did last time behind Masakola, especially over this longer distance.
With the visor for the first time at 17.0 as well. And so that's a decent old price. Shame there aren't 8 in there, really. Let's move on to the first of the Group 1s, which is the Cheveley Park over 6 furlongs, the 225. Sacred Bridge is 2.88, 5.5 for Zane Claudette, 6.0 for Sandrine. Flotus is 12.0, and I won't go through the much bigger prices. So, Jonesy, you can make your case, and then Don and I are going to come straight back at you.
Well, I think it's fascinating, this race, because there's a few towards the head of the market there that deserve to be. I thought Sandrine was perhaps the best of them. Last time beaten by Zane Claudette in the Lowther, but Sandrine was giving Zane Claudette £3 and was probably inconvenienced, challenging the more towards the stand side. Now, back in third was Desert Dreamer. This must be the unluckiest horse in training. How this horse hasn't won a group race, I'll never know, because she has been so unlucky on a number of occasions. She's been stopped in the run. Her form figures make her look like she's a bit iffy, but it's just bad luck. And her form is tied in with Sandrine and Zane Claudette. Last time the saddle slipped at York, where I didn't think the track was particularly suited her, but she still would have. She finished third, beaten 3 lengths. Well, she wouldn't have. She might even have finished second had the saddle not slipped. And she travels very well, but she also finishes very well. She likes Newmarket. Her 2 wins earlier in the season came at the Rowley Mile, and she's also run well on the July course. She was only beaten a nose in the Princess Margaret by Zane Claudette. She's got very solid form, and people are fed up with her. I think they don't want to be with an unlucky horse. And what price did you say she was? 15.0 or something?
Yeah, I didn't even get that far. She's 15.0.
Crazy. So I think with a bit of luck, which she hasn't had, I think she's a great bet. So I would go win and place, but I would go stronger on the win. Just place, because I can't see her out the frame.
And she's got a tongue.
Sorry, and there'll be a strong pace. I think there'll be a really strong pace in this, and that will suit her.
She's got a tongue for the first time as well, and I'd love to see it. Stuart Williams looking for his first Group 1. That'd be fantastic. She's a big old price. We're going to make... Right, so there's 2 cases coming up for Sacred Bridge. I'll go first, Don, because I think mine will be a different sort of case to yours. Because
yours will make sense.
You're to be...
I think yours will make sense.
Tom to be ill-informed. That's what he's trying to say.
No, basically mine is just... All I can say is I watched that back last time, and I mean, she just looked. She stood out so far that wherever she goes next, I know she's into Group 1 company, but I just don't see how she doesn't win this. I don't see any chinks in her armor. She just looks so stand out, the best of them. I mean, she absolutely pulverized them, and I know this will be much harder trying to go with better horses, but I think she'll be able to easily. She'll ping out. She can sit wherever she wants. I just think she's so far the best horse in the race that I couldn't possibly look away from her, particularly at that price. Given that I think she could go off. Genuinely think she could go off now on even money. I think she is. Yeah, I think she'll be well supported, and I think she'll bolt up. Right, Donn, give us a more cogent, more sensible case.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's going to be, but yeah, look, the form of her Round Tower Stakes win, it's taken one or two little knocks since then, including from her still companion Geocentric, who was beaten at Ayr there at the weekend. But yeah, I like, as you say, Tom, it's the way she does it. Like she beat Agartha on her racecourse debut, and Agartha obviously Madonna won the debutante and was only just beaten in the Moidlair. And look, I know Agartha's an improved filly, but so's Sacred Bridge. And after that run, she dropped down to 5 furlongs at Tipperary next time, and I kind of thought she was vulnerable over 5 furlongs because she's bred for longer. Like her dam won over 10 furlongs, and Keith Dalglish sent over Miss the Air, and I thought Miss the Air might beat her. Actually, I was on that night and said as much, so it didn't look too clever afterwards. She was so good over 5, and then in the Ballyhane race, which is a valuable race at Ace, she had to be strong. It's a race that does normally takes a lot of getting. They go fast from early, and you have to fully see out 6 furlongs, back up at 6 furlongs, and she did, and she came near side, and she was strong all the way to the line. And then again, last time in the Round Tower, she stepped up again on that. So yeah, look, and it's as much the regard in which Ger Lyons and Colin Keane seem to hold her as it is what she's done. Also, directly after the Round Tower, Ger Lyons said Cheveley Park, that's where she's going next, which is, you always love to see that. And the 2-year-olds that Ger Lyons has, including 2-year-old fillies, he's got Panama Red, with Carja Joe. I know she was disappointing last time, but she's held in really high regard. And then the colts, and some of whom we're going to see over the weekend, Dr. Zemph in the Middle Park. He's just got such a strong hand of juveniles. He's had such a good season with them, and she seems to be right up there, or maybe even close to the very top of them. So, yeah, it's there's an awful lot to like about her, and this is the race in which Ger Lyons broke his Group 1 duck, isn't it? The Cheveley Park with Lightning Pearl. So yeah, look,
10 years ago, was it?
Is it 10? Yeah, it's at least 10, I'd say. Yeah. But she's short, and it's a strong race. Like Sandrine was, as Steve said, she was unlucky last time a bit. She missed the break and had to come near side. Fully agree with all Steve's comments on Desert Dreamer. Like she had to make her ground on the far side that day, and she made her ground quite quickly, and then just kind of seemed to flatten out, and obviously wasn't helped by the saddle slipping. It is interesting that Stuart Williams is fitting a tongue tie for the first time to her. And Flotus, like she was held in really high regard earlier in the season, then she kind of tapered off, and then last time at Ripon, they rode her forward from the far side. She was drawn in stall 1 or 2 on the far side. She was so fast early, she was able to get across in front of the field onto the near side rail. And she was a really impressive winner, so she could come forward again. So look, it's a really, really interesting race, but I think, I agree with Tom. I think Sacred Bridge could be just a little bit ahead of them.
And a far better, more in-depth case made there, Don. So thank you. But we've come to the same conclusion. We move on to the middle part, which is the 3 o'clock, and just another point I want to make as well, which I feel I should have done, is that the stalls are in the centre. Now, we have often seen for these Cheveley Park and Middle Park Day that there's a bit of a rush for the rail. But we might see it, but I think with 10 runners in a Middle Park, we probably won't, because normally they're up against the stand side rail, and that's where you want to be. But here, I like the fact, that they're making it a fairer contest, and that the stalls are in the centre. I think that's a good thing for Perfect Power, actually, who I'm going to put up in the Middle Park. Perfect Power does head the betting. It's actually the same price, 2.88, as Sacred Bridge. Dr. Zemph is 6.0. Asymmetric is 9.5, as is Castle Star, and 10.0 for Go Bears Go and Armour, and 11.0 for Couture. Then we get stuck into the bigger prices. I'll just flesh out that Perfect Power case then. Again, I think he's comfortably the best in the race. I like the fact that he's won on quick ground. I think we're going to be dealing with quick ground. I hope they don't water. I think they might have to, but you never know. That this time of year, hopefully not. I think based upon the issues he got into at Goodwood behind Asymmetric in Richmond, we can say that he would have gone very, very close. And then obviously he finished ahead of that horse in the Morney last time. That is the best form guy without a doubt. I think 7 of 8 Morney winners that have tried to win this in the past have gone on to do so. Interesting, Christophe Soumion's coming over to ride. Obviously no bad thing. And I like the fact that the stall, if he was drawn 1 and the stalls weren't in the middle, I'd be a bit more concerned. But they're in the middle. I think he'll tuck in. And again, I just think he is the best horse in the race. So I think, again, I don't think he's as good a value as Sacred Bridge, but I would still want to have him on side personally. We've got a shout for Dr. Zemph. Is that yours, Don? Dr. Zemph?
No, it's not. Steve.
Oh, Steve Jones. Goodness me, Jonesy. Look, I assumed you were Team Ireland, but no, Jonesy. Go on, Dr. Zemp.
Yeah, I think the way to look at this race is whether you're with the Morney form, perfect power, asymmetric, Arbor, or like me, you're a little bit different, and you're with the form last time behind Ebro River in the Phoenix Stakes. And I thought that was a good performance from Dr. Zemp. Previous to that, Dr. Zemp had finished fourth, again at the Curragh over 6 furlongs at the Railway Stakes, behind Go Bears Go and Castle Star, but got no sort of run that day, was starting to wind up and just got squeezed out. And the fact that Dr. Zemp was able to recover into fourth, I thought was quite good. Last time in the Phoenix Stakes, there was another good run, came home well. I thought this horse, to me, looked like a horse that wanted the quicker ground, and he's going to get it this weekend, even though the pedigree might suggest not. I thought the run style of Dr. Zemp, I think faster ground's what he wants, and I think he's going to take another step forward. He's not a horse that's particularly exposed. He's only had 3 starts, and one of those was when he was badly hampered on his second start. So if you take that as his second run really last time, given the trouble he got into previously, I think he's going to take another step forward. So I'm with Joe Lyons in this race. I'm probably half an hour too late or so. But yeah, I think he's got a good chance.
Dave agrees with you. Dr. Zemp, nap. And
this is my alias, Dave Winder.
Yeah,
and Tuppy away, because we agreed on firmament as well.
Yeah, it's you, isn't it, Steve? Just being like, one of those people that just writes away, like trying to give yourself a bit of a boost. Giles says asymmetric the value, but I also want to pull out. He says I wouldn't rule out either of the O'Brien runners. He's been overlooked because of what is perceived to be an indifferent season. He's got a great track record in this race. I do think that's a really interesting point. Thank you for that, Giles. That on the face of it, the amount of races at the top level he's won, he's doing all right. It's just that I don't think he's far off when he set the record, actually, given the time of year. But it's just that he's been winning quite a lot of them. He's won a few in France, and therefore I don't think he's considered to have had such a good season. But and particularly with his juveniles and Point Lonsdale now getting beaten. So I think that's an interesting point. Donn, happy for you to pick up on that and then move on to your selection, who is Couture. But take it away.
Yeah, no, it is a fair point. Like HMS Endeavour, I thought he did well to win at Dundalk the other night. He over 5 furlongs, which probably wouldn't have been ideal for him to step up to 6. An easy 6 is probably close to optimum for him. And Aidan O'Brien had 4 in the first race earlier on, and Hoth is the only one he's left in it. And Hoth's interesting. He won his nursery, but he probably in the Royal Lodge. And the Royal Lodge is a race in which Aidan O'Brien does well. I think he's won 3 of the last 10 or something like that. And he doesn't tend to run his best horses in. So Hoth, again, taking on the point, it's he's a horse who could outrun his odds as well in the Royal Lodge. But yeah, maybe they are being a bit overlooked, which is unusual for an Aidan O'Brien clutch of juveniles. But yeah, I think Dr. Zemp and even Castle Star might have the upper hand here. Like, again, I agree with what Steve said on Dr. Zemp. He's a very likable horse. He's been held in high regard, and he did well last time in the Phoenix Stakes. Just was out battled by Ebro River, and Ebro River ran a massive race in the National Stakes when he actually travelled best of all, probably to the furlong pole or to just outside the furlong marker, and then his stamina ran out over 7 furlongs. But the Phoenix Stakes is obviously over 6. So I think it was a big performance by Dr. Zemp to get as close to Ebro River as he did, and he had Go Bears Go and Castle Star behind him that day, reversing the Railway Stakes form, which is in which, as Steve says, he didn't get a great run. He and Castle Star kind of went for the same gap in the Railway, and Castle Star got it, and Dr. Zemp was playing catch up after that. But yeah, there should be a big race in Dr. Zemp, and he was close to my pick for the race, but I'm just drawn by a bigger price of Couture. I just thought he's an underrated horse. I thought what he did in the Flying Childers last time was really good. He was given a superb ride by Adam Kirby. He had him in behind. He brought him to the near side and then just got up to beat Armour. That was over 5 furlongs. Stepping up to 6 should suit him. He does have good form over 6 as well from earlier in the year. And And I just worry about that running style, the kind of come from behind running style at Newmarket. It's not ideal, but hopefully they'll go a fast enough pace up front that should bring him into it. So yeah, I think at a biggish price, he's the value of the race. And yeah, look, Perfect Power, he's probably the right favourite. He's got the form. He did well the last day in the pre-morning. He kind of had to engineer his racing room. He had to move Trident out of his way. And maybe in years gone by in France, he would have been thrown out, but and then he and Trident both came on the near side, and whereas Asymmetric was more towards the far side, and it just may have been a wee bit of an advantage to be towards the near side in that pre-morning. It might have been, it may be that Asymmetric can get closer to Perfect Power now than he did that day, and again he'll be suited by Newmarket, or he should be suited by Newmarket. It's interesting as well that Fozzie Stackle's sending Castle over. He's not far behind Dr. Zemphin. He was in front of him in the Railway Stakes, so Ireland have a good strong hand in this, but yeah, I just think Katura might be the one who's underrated by the market. At
11.0. Move on to the 340, which is the Cambridgeshire, the race that the race. What came first, the meeting of the race? Right, anyway, imagine, I'm actually a presenter on actual TV. It's nuts, isn't it? How did that happen? Can't even string a sentence together. Right, the Cambridgeshire, the feature race for many of the meeting. I'm not going to read out prices other than say it's got, because it's so open, because they've got a lot tighter at the top. So Uncle Bryn and Magical Morning, the two stable companions, have come together a bit more. So 8.0 and 8.5. And there really is very little between them. Donn, first of all, because I think you've got the biggest price of the lot. So Donn, you can make your case, then Jonesy and I'll take over.
We'll take it apart. Yeah. Like, it's just spent lots of time going around in circles, and I suppose the fact that Frankie Dettori has chosen to ride Magical Morning instead of Uncle Bryn, that's maybe seen the market turn around. Chichester, he's the handicap horse in the race, isn't he? Like, he won so well at Ayr last time, and he was very, very impressive in winning. He travelled really well into the race and then just went clear. I think the handicap had given £12 for that. He raced off of £4 under his £4 penalty, so he's £9 well in. So look, it's you kind of, if Chichester goes and wins it, you'll go, well, of course he was going to go and win it. He's £9 well in, and he's a progressive horse. Although he's had a lot of runs this year, he's run 11 times I think this year. But look, he's one you probably have to have somewhere near your shortlist or on your shortlist. Irish Admiral as well. He's a horse he's threatening to win a big race. He just travels so well into his races, but he doesn't find as much as it looks like he's going to find. He did keep on well the last 8 red car, but up another furlong, and the Cambridgeshire is a race in which you probably need to stay further than 9 furlongs. So again, Irish Admiral can be on your list, but just wonder how much he'd find in the latter stages of the race. Majestic Dawn is back for more, £10 higher than he was last year when he came down the near side rail, and he's got his high draw again. 34. So that's probably highest of all, is it? It's probably flush against the stand side rail again. But I think Lucander.
There's a 35. There's a 35.
35, right? So it's top 2. Yeah, I think Lucander is, again, he finished second in the race last year. He's £3 lower now than he was last year, and obviously there's a reason for that. He hasn't won since he won at York on his last run before last year's Cambridgeshire. But he goes really well at Newmarket. He finished second behind John Baptiste at Newmarket earlier this season as well, albeit on easier ground. Fast ground would be a worry. But he ran well on good ground at York last time when he raced towards the far side that the race Migration won. Actually, it's the race that Lucander won last year before he went on to Cambridgeshire, and he just kind of got run down by the 3 horses who raced towards the near side. So I thought he can probably be marked up a wee bit on that. And you just think that maybe Rafe Beckett is working back from the Cambridgeshire and training him again, like to get him into the Cambridgeshire as a 4-year-old on a £3 lower mark than he was last year when he finished second. And okay, he had the high draw last year as well, and I think the first 4 home were all drawn high, so he was probably advantaged. But he's got a high draw again for Saturday in 28, so I think that's probably a positive. So I just think, yeah, he can step forward a fair bit on his York run, back over the course and distance, over which he put up one of the best performances of his life. I think 26.0 or thereabouts. That's a big price about it.
Yeah, there's a 37 actually, because the reserves are admitted stalls, aren't they? So Marco Gianni's going to come out 37, but yes, he's right up against. Yeah, he's still high, and last year's winner is still very, very high. Steve, So I couldn't split a selection between Magical Morning and Astro King, and I went for Magical Morning, who was a bigger price than Astro King when I made the selection, and now he's shorter. So there you go. You like Astro King?
I do. I was really looking forward to getting stuck into this race, and it's pissed me off a bit because I think the right horses are at the top of the betting, and I can't really get too excited about it. Although Astro King's what, about 11.0, 10.0, something like that?
No,
so,
less now, I'm afraid. So we're down to 9.0, but go on.
9.0. I suppose it's still a nice price. You can see why people have latched on to the Gosden horses. He often targets this race with unexposed horses like he's got. But Astro King, for me, has always looked likely to be ideal for the Cambridgeshire. Earlier in the season, had good form, was runner-up in the Hunt Cup when the winner, Real World, was on the far side, and Astro King came through, and sort of that's the way he likes to do it, coming through late in the day. And Real World had already gone. Well, Real World's gone on, and we've seen it's won group races, so that's extraordinarily strong form. When tried over 10 furlongs at York, I thought the way the race was run rather than the distance was the problem for Astro King. They didn't go much of a pace in that John Smith's Cup, and he couldn't really work his way into it at York, where there's a sharp track. And last time at York, ran very well from a wide draw. So if he ever's going to win a big one, which I think he will, Astro King is going to be now. This 9 furlongs trip might turn out to be ideal. I always think, in looking through the past winners, that a lot of them have either won over 10 furlongs or have run well over 10 furlongs previously. So for me, you want a horse dropping back rather than do they stay sort of thing. And I think Astro King's ideal in that respect. I think most of the pace is high. This race has been won by horses drawn high in recent years. Astro King's down the middle, so that would be a slight concern. But I think with Ryan Moore in the saddle, he can get across there is pace across the course, of course there is, but I think hopefully he can latch onto the stand side. And he's got as good a chance as any. I was a bit disappointed I couldn't come up with something at a bigger price. Like Donn, I was quite interested in Luke Camden. The other one was Spirit Dancer, and it's just the ground putting me off that pair. So, yeah, Astro King for me, in short.
Spirit Dancer is 23.0, just so you know. Donn's selection, Luke Camden, was 29.0. I was Astro King on Magical Morning, and I went with Magical Morning because he was a bigger price. I do feel like he got a worse trip, and he finished ahead of Astro King at York last time. And I definitely wanted something pretty much hard up against the stand side rail, because I think that's where you might want to be anyway. So I thought he was pretty obvious there, but still a fair enough price. And the other one I wanted to back was Joseph O'Brien's Raise You. He's a course winner for when with Andrew Balding. We know he handles the track. He does look like he's better on better ground. And at Galway, he was unlucky not to finish closer, I thought. Dylan Brown McMonagle is very capable, but also Claimers have got a half decent record in the race. So I sort of wanted to have one on side. I'd rather he was drawn higher, but he's an Irish handicapper and a UK handicap. Have we learned nothing? It's as simple as that. So I'm going to have a little bit on Raise You at 21.0. Right, best bets, gentlemen. Your best bet for Saturday, Steve Jones, is?
I'm going to go for Dr. Zemp.
Dr. Zemp in the Middle Park. I am going to go for Sacred Bridge in the Cheveley Park. And Donn?
I'd go with Lucander in the Cambridgeshire, getting 9 places or 10 places each way. Fine.
We're Matchbook giving you 20 places. No, they're not. That's a lie. They're not. Good stuff, everybody. Thank you very much for everyone that's joined in. There's been plenty of you. Thanks for that. And Mihal Deasy, his best bet, I forgot to give it. He's producing, but he's typing away. It's Wrong Way Harry in the 325 at Listowel on Saturday, if the money is down. It's almost like he's in the know. Wrong Way Harry in the 325 at Listowel. There you go. Good stuff. Hope you have an excellent weekend. We'll see you again next week. But first of all, enjoy all the action wherever you're watching it this weekend. Bye-bye.